Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Ryan Files. Today we're pulling back the cosmic curtain on one of the biggest mysteries in our solar system, Mars. What if the red planet isn't just a dead rock, but holds the remnants of something ancient, intelligent, and deliberately hidden? Our guest today is George Haas, one of the most respected researchers when it comes to Martian anomalies, especially structures that some say shouldn't exist. If you've ever wondered about the face on Mars, the Cydonia complex, or NASA's silence, buckle up. But before we dive in, here's a quick but important note. What you're about to hear includes both theories, personal research, and interpretations that challenge the mainstream narrative. These are not verified claims, and the views expressed are those of our guest. This episode is not about pushing beliefs, it's about asking questions. And here on the Ryan Files, we trust you, the audience, to think critically and explore the truth for yourself. Are you ready? Because this is the Ryan Files. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me this week on the Ryan Files. Very excited about this week's guest, the one and only George J. Haas. We're going to be talking about Mars today, and I'm very excited about this. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's great being on your show.
Awesome, man. So you have a book. This is one of three, your latest one, I guess, The Great Architects of Mars, Evidence for the Lost Civilization on the Red Planet. And you have this is so interesting to me. And I'll tell you why, George. We've got what seems to be photographic evidence of all kinds of stuff going on, not just on Mars, but you got the moon, there's the moons of Jupiter, Saturn, all these different things. But Mars, obviously the close neighbor, the most Earth-like planet in our solar system. And it appears that some things happened there long ago, and there are remnants that we are starting to be able to not only see, but overwhelming evidence of how much it looks like a past civilization.
Oh, yeah. We'll get right into it. I have a little theory about how this all came about. And my hypothesis is that it I call it the gatekeeper hypothesis, that sometime in the distant past, after our solar system in the beginning, there's a lot of evidence that we had another planet in between Mars and Jupiter. Some people call it Planet X. Dr. Tom Van Franlin talked about this, and he said this planet blew up, and that's how come we have the asteroid belt. Okay. Right. So when that planet blew up, for whatever reason, a Star Wars scenario with Darth Vader blowing up planets, we don't know. It could have had an internal problem with its core, made it blow up. So basically, governments don't want to tell people that planets can blow up. So this is one reason why we don't, it's not in the general science talk, the lessons that we get. And the theory is that this planet blew up. And when it blew up, it pushed all of the planets from Mars forward to the sun. Are you visualizing that explosion?
Yep.
The planets moved closer. Whatever life was on Venus and Mercury burned up. The dinosaurs, this happened about 65 million years ago. Dinosaurs all died. They didn't die because of a meteor hitting the Yucatan. They died because of gravity. There's a lot of archaeologists that talk about this. If you had a brontosaurus today, some that are as big as a football and a half football field, right, they couldn't stand up. We have too much gravity. There was more oxygen back then. This is all science that they talk about. It's not me. I'm not a scientist. I'm just an artist. That at that time, there was a lot more oxygen in the air and there was less gravity. So you could have all these big dinosaurs, big plants, dragonflies as big as a car, everything was big. Now, when this planet blew up, everything pushed in, you had more gravity.
Okay.
That's where we come in. At the time, we were probably what they find these Neanderthals, Cro-Magnon, might have been humans. We don't know.
Okay.
So at this point, after this is all over, Earth is flourishing. This runaway culture from some other galaxy comes here, hiding or whatever they're doing, exploring. We don't know. This is just my idea. They come here, they build a base on Mars and on the moon, and they occupy Earth. Earth's a paradise, beautiful place. Whatever remnants of crazy dragons and dinosaurs, they kill all them. Genetically, they make us to work for them, like the Anunnaki story.
Okay.
Similar to that. So they need workers. They're not going to be working. Hey, man, I'm not working. We'll have these slave people do it. So they take the available beast, the Cro-Magnon or Neanderthal, and they create us. We're workers. Then as time passes, this culture that they ran away from finds them. There's a war. They destroy the gatekeepers on Mars. That's why we have all these ruins up there, and the little rovers see all this stuff. Looks like things blew up all over the place. They destroy that. They destroy what was ever on the moon. The domes were all destroyed, and the aliens that occupied here and made us, they take off. They're getting the hell out of Dodge, and they leave us here. And then we evolve. We forget about all this. It's, all this things that happened a long time ago. We have the amnesia, as some other researchers talk about this. We don't remember the past. The idea of Atlantis. This culture's gone, and then we're evolving. We're going to the moon. We go to the moon in the 1970s. We find structures on the moon. We stopped going to the moon because I graduated the bicentennial class, 1976, from high school. Okay. And I can remember our science teachers telling us that, 10 years, we're going to have, hotels on the moon. It was only 3 days away, and we were landing on the moon in 1969. Everything was going well. And they stopped the space program. That was the end of that. And, it's been a long time. And eventually, we're going to go to the moon, set up bases. We're going to go to Mars. Elon Musk, he can't wait to get to Mars. Elon going to do this on his own, or is he going to do it with NASA? But we could have the history repeating itself where we set up a colony on Mars, and then after 50 years, the colony on Mars says, hey, man, you're not going to tell us what to do. We have all these minerals here. We're going to have our own planet, and own country, kind of like the Civil War. Yeah. You have another war. This could have happened in the past. There could have been multiple wars on Mars. Mars was a desirable place. So that's all I think. This is how these ruins and things got there.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And listen,
now we have a lot of evidence with that through history. We have the Anunnaki that talk about, or the Sumerians and the Babylonians, the Assyrians that talk about the Anunnaki, who had a similar scenario. So the last chapter, I talk about the Maya Star War, which most people don't even have no idea about. And all of this that I've documented in the last chapter about the Maya Star War, that's all archaeologists detail. I didn't do any of this research. So they talk about this little place called Naranjo in Mexico. Now, Naranjo means orange, and their patron god was the Zip Monster. Now, the Zip Monster with the Maya and the Olmec, the Aztec, he was a reference to Mars. The Zip Monster was a symbol of Mars. It's in the Dresden Codex. They study the retrograde, the orbiting of Mars, very detailed. So they're very interested in Mars. And the patron god of Naranjo, which was in Mexico, which they have all these tablets and stela. A lot of them have been looted and destroyed. So, which is interesting because this is a very important place in Mexico because this has all this connection to Mars. They had two major battles between Earth and Mars recorded in Maya text from Naranjo with Tikal, Cozumel. They were all fighting with this place that the archaeologists call Sixth Earth Place. Now that's in the PowerPoint we have here, and it's also mentioned in the book. They can't find Sixth Earth Place. They don't know. They know all the places the Maya had battles with the Aztec. They cannot find Sixth Earth Place because Sixth Earth Place is Mars. Now, the Maya counted the planets from the outside in, just like the Sumerians. The Earth is the seventh planet. Venus would be the eighth planet, and Mars would be the sixth planet. Also, there's multiple references to Zip Monster being related to the number 6. So Mars is Sixth Earth Place. And they had two major battles between Earth and Sixth Earth Place, which is Mars, 1 million years ago and about 22,000 years ago, which goes along with my scenario that they had set up a base. It was a big battle. They left. The ancients, probably during the time of Atlantis mythology, we also occupied Mars. So Mars seems to find, or we seem to find all these structures on Mars that are really destroyed. And then others that seem almost pristine. Well, I mean, they're covered with silt and stuff, but they look like they were built, 22,000 years ago, pretty recent. Right. So we have two time frames. So this is all coordinating from my research with NASA taking these pictures, these mythologies, these written stories with the Anunnaki and the Maya that seem to coordinate that there was something going on Mars. Somebody was occupying Mars. We have evidence that somebody was on the moon. And this is all probably related to this scenario, which I talk about in this new book. And it's pretty mind-boggling.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm excited. Let's dive in. I know you got some notes, a slideshow and whatnot. I want to check it out because I think that the visual evidence that you show in the book is pretty compelling. And we can get in, of course, we can get into a lot of once we see it. Once
Yes.
our viewers see it, we can kind of get into it a little bit more.
Do you want me to start that PowerPoint?
Fired up.
All right. Well, this is my current book. I have two other books that were published with North Atlantic Books with my original co-author, William Saunders, who's a geomorphologist. He lives up in Canada. And him and I met on Richard Hoagland's discussion board from the Enterprise mission back in the late 1990s. And we co-wrote two books, the Cydonia Codex, talking about the face on Mars and all the surrounding structures. And then our second book was the Martian Codex, which was more reflections from Mars. And we both became members of the Society for Planetary SETI Research, which is a group of scientists. Now, I just want your audience to know, I'm not a scientist. Bill's a geomorphologist. My background is art. I exhibited up in New York in the big 80s, and I had shows in East Village, Soho. I had a one-man show at Ivan Karp's gallery on Broadway. So that's my background. I do sculpture, painting, etchings, all kinds of things. And so I don't have any science background. I'm an artist, a painter. And when I see structure, I see geoglyphs, I know artwork when I see it, from my background. So that's basically my credentials. And after we became members of the Society for Planetary SETI Research, we met a lot of the prominent figures in this early research, Dr. Brandenburg, Dr. Mark Herlotto, Dr. Stanley McDaniel, Dr. Crater, all these people. And we worked on some science papers with them. And so currently I have 7 science papers that I wrote as an artist with scientists. So pretty good resume there.
Yeah.
And so this new book is with Bear & Company, which is the Inner Traditions. And they've been very good to me. They did a great job in promoting. Since January, when the book came out, I've done probably 25, 30 podcasts like yours here. And been on Ancient Aliens, Beyond Belief with William Shatner, and things like that. So things are moving along.
That's
now,
awesome.
Before we get into the book, Joe Rogan.
Oh, yeah.
He's like biggest podcast around. And he had Elon Musk on, and they were talking about this square formation that was found. It was all over viral. Were you aware of that?
Yep.
The square formation on Mars got a lot of attention. Now, I'm familiar with that because I knew about it. This was discovered, people like myself that do this research for 30 years. This is from, the year 2000. It goes way back. And for some reason, this thing got a lot of attention on the internet. And subsequently, I started working on a science paper, wanting to get on the, his podcast.
Absolutely.
Be a guest.
Yeah.
I don't know, the 3 or 4 hours long or whatever he does.
Yeah.
So we had approached Joe, and we haven't been on yet. But in the meantime, I know a few people that have some influence with this kind of research. And we got a hold of Robert Schoch.
Oh, yeah.
He's the famous archaeologist that discovered that the Sphinx had evidence of water damage. And so he's very well known. He's actually co-authoring the paper with us.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great.
So we've been working on the paper for the last 2 or 3 months. It was actually, are you ready for this, Ryan? Just published today.
Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations.
So maybe I'll come back on. We can talk about that. But what I've been doing before the book for the last couple of months is talking about the square formation while I was in the background working on the book.
Right.
So if you're interested, we could start there.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is in the Arabia area of Mars. This is a MOLA map showing the heights and depressions of the surface. This blue area, this would probably be where the ancient, they call it the Paleo Ocean on Mars. Cydonia area is right over here. Everything we're finding is inland. All this area out here doesn't have a lot of structures because that would be underwater. This would be water. This would be water. So this is right around the shoreline. We're finding all of these civilizations that were in ruin. Wow. This area where the square structures found is right here, right? Basically in this parallel with Cydonia. This is the famous square formation that got all the attention. This is an old Mars global surveyor image from 2001. So this is a pretty old piece. It's 23 years old.
Right.
and just getting attention now. We've talked about this before. Nobody wanted to even look at it. But because, Joe Reagan's involved, it's, Joe Rogan. That's right. He's no relation to the other guy.
Yeah.
So this is the original strip. This is the new Mars global, the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. This is highest resolution camera they have. They just took a new picture of this in 2018. So this is the same structure down here.
Okay. Yep.
The peak of it goes right off this cliff here. It's right on the edge of a cliff.
Right.
This is just showing the outline. It's still there. This is in a newer. The original Mars Global Surveyor image wasn't as high of a resolution as this, but this is the best that NASA provides, and you can still see the square formation is there.
Right, and no erosion or anything like that.
There's a lot of. You can only see some of the standing walls. All these walls here are gone. You can just see some slight indentation. It's all covered over with silt and dirt.
Okay.
So this is just the foundation of whatever kind of huge structure this was.
Right.
Okay. And this is the point down here, which is right next to this ridge or cliff.
Right. And in nature, you don't find a lot of geometric, like right angles and stuff like that. I do know
especially like this right angle here, you do not find that in nature. Right. There's no examples. Yeah. That right there is a red flag for that not being natural. And then of course it's adjacent to a repeated right angle.
Yep.
So this has a lot of support for a structure like this being artificial. Now, this is probably one of the worst examples I have. But interestingly, this one's getting all the attention.
What's the dimensions on each side of that?
I think it's pretty close to, I think it's like close to a mile. They're pretty big. Everything on Mars is big.
Yeah.
Because of the low gravity, they can build everything large. And we don't know how big these builders were. They might have been the so-called giants that we hear about in the past. So they might have been, large people building these huge structures.
Wow. Awesome.
So this is just my analysis of looking at all of the structures in here, the right angle here, the right angle down here. There's a rectangle indentation in the wall here. And some of the other images show water seepage coming out of here, which is not in this picture. There's also 4 other mounds here that are directly the same distance apart, which, very anomalous. So not only do you have this, you have these 3 quadrilateral structures. You have this large square, you have this rectangle, and they have another square here. So there's 3 anomalies in this little condensed area.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And again,
I didn't see anything.
Doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen in nature.
No. So there's a lot of anomalies here. This is being compared to a known foundational ruin that's in Afghanistan, all covered up with sand, parts of it missing. Very similar to what you see here. All this wall here is covered over with sand. You got this one here is covered over with, bounds of sand dunes and things. So just showing the similarity of a terrestrial ruin as compared to what we're seeing on Mars.
Very, very compelling.
This is a formation that was found in Honduras. They're using the LiDAR, finding all of these lost Maya all over. There's so many Mayan cities we don't know about now that they're finding all over the place and throughout Mesoamerica.
Right.
The other thing the audience may not be aware of, the environmentalists, they're complaining that people are going down in the Amazon and they're cutting the trees down and they're planting grass and they're putting cows and cutting all the forest down. Well, the Amazon, we find out, has also pictographic and geoglyphic formations that are underneath these trees that were built before it was a forest.
Yep. Yep.
So there's a lot of things we don't know about. Now, this one was found in Honduras, and you see it's right on a cliff. The edge is right on a cliff, just like we're seeing on Mars. This is a ridge line here. Wow. So we have a square formation, almost like we see on Mars, and going right off the ridge line. This is a LiDAR. The LiDAR gets rid of all of the foliage, all the greenery. It just goes right down, hits the ground, bounces up. And that's how they get these maps.
Right.
And that's how they're finding a lot of temples and things in in Mexico.
Yep.
So this is pretty amazing. Nice comparison to what we're seeing on Mars. Also, the District of Columbia in Washington, D.C. was originally, now again, this square, this is north. The same thing on Mars. The top of it is north. I didn't mention that. This is the outline of the original District of Columbia, which is in a square diamond shape set on its edge with this going up north. So to make a architectural comparison showing the whole architectural shape of the city where the District of Columbia is, same shape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's it's overwhelming. That's amazing.
Yeah. So, and also we have a science paper, like I said, was just published today. We'll probably have that up on my website next week. This weekend, I'm going out to Colorado and filming an episode of Beyond Belief with George Norrie. So won't be back until Father's Day,
Okay.
and then try to get some of this stuff up for people to see. This is how the book opens. I talk about structures on Earth. This is in Zion, China, this area right here. This is kind of like the MOLA map, but this is an Earth map, same kind of concept. So I do this when I do these talks so people have an idea where we're at on Mars or where we're at on Earth. So this is Zion, China. This is Australia, Africa, just to give you an idea. So during World War II, a pilot was flying over the area. His name was James Gaussman, I think.
Okay.
He was a World War II pilot, and he kind of like got off course and was flying over this area of China. And out his window, he saw this, and he just happened to have a camera, and because I guess he was doing surveillance, and he took a picture of this. This is called the White Pyramid. This was considered a hoax. This was in the New York Times when it was originally taken, and a lot of the forgotten mystery books and things like that came out in the 70s and 80s, a lot of them featured this, and this was considered a hoax. Like he made this up.
Right.
Now, this wasn't confirmed until the advent of Google.
Wow.
In 2003. This is an area of Zion, China. Now, China said they didn't have pyramids
Right.
for years. We don't have no pyramids. They have no pyramids. So when Google was taking all these pictures, here we go. This is exactly what the area, and there's not only the White Pyramid, there's probably 30 or 40 pyramids all over this area.
Right.
Pretty amazing. So this was confirmed, and China originally, back in the early 2000s, still said they didn't have any pyramids. Right. It took a long time for them to actually say they had pyramids in China. They're all covered over with dirt, and they have little shrubberies growing on them, trying to hide them for some reason. And they're not open to archaeologists to examine because they don't want to destroy them. So it's all hush hush. We have no idea who built them. Of course, the Chinese say they built them, but it doesn't make any sense. So we don't know how they got there. And the reason I open up with this, because we're finding the same thing on Mars. Pictures that people say aren't real. It's NASA's making this up. And of course, these things are real. And we have a lot of evidence for it.
Right.
This shows the same thing. When you're looking at structures on Mars, they're covered over with dust, silt, sometimes ice,
Yep.
And you're just seeing the shape of the formation, which is obscured a little bit by all of this debris. Now, this is in 1900. When the temple at Teotihuacan, as you can see, originally, just like the Chinese are trying to cover up everything with shrubberies and grass and little trees. That's the way when they found it. It looked like a mountain.
Yeah, it does. Wow.
But after it was excavated, when they cleaned it up, this is what we had. The same idea was this guy. His name is Douglas Van Koch. He's a scientist, and he got a group of scientists together, which included SETI scientists, all kinds of mainstream scientists, archaeologists, anthropologists, and they got together to see what they would expect to find on another planet like Mars, the Moon, some of our other planets. If we go into space, what would we find, and how would we be able to, through aerial surveillance, recognize markers? That's what they call it, markers for architecture or intelligent design.
Right.
And what they found was that most scientists may not be able to distinguish markers from geological formations. It's actually in the book. They actually say that they probably couldn't tell. Interesting.
Yeah.
Especially when you're looking at pyramids that are covered with dirt.
Takes the eyes of an artist.
And also, this idea of covering up things. NASA scientists say that when we go to Mars and we build these little habitats or ecologies, domes, the best thing to do to protect from the radiation is to cover them with dirt.
Yeah.
So again, hard to find.
Interesting.
I just set the audience up here to understand that this is a scientific explanation for things, and it's the same type of idea we're finding on Mars. Now, our first stop in the book, we go to Elysium. Elysium was very well known at the time. These pictures were taken by the Mariner 9. Mariner 9 predated the Viking. That's when we took the first high resolution images of the surface of Mars. They were very high contrasted images. This is an image that one of the images that came back, very black and white almost, with high contrast. And these were the what they call the Carl Sagan pyramids. Carl Sagan noticed these. You see this pyramid here?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So he mentioned this on his Cosmos program, and it was also in his 1980 book and television series, Cosmos. So Carl Sagan was very intrigued with this, and he said that intelligent life on Earth reveals itself through the geometry and regularity of its construct. So the first thing you look for is geometry.
Right.
So he saw these, and he figured these are something we need to go look at. Unfortunately, Ryan, Carl died in 1996. He never got to see any high resolution images that NASA had taken of this formation. NASA did take a Viking image when they had in 1976, years after this, but they were not as sharp as this picture. The Viking images were taken way far away in a very small little structure, and they were just blurry. So he never got any confirmation, which was sad.
Right. Yeah. This 72 was the same where they found the face on Mars, right? That was 72.
No, that was 1976.
Okay, 76 is the one. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, that was the bicentennial when we landed on Mars.
Okay, all right.
And that group of pictures from 1976, that's when they took another picture of the Elysium area, but they were just very low quality.
Okay, great.
Now, the other interesting thing I found out in my research was that really Carl Sagan wasn't the one that discovered these pyramids in Elysium. They were discovered by this independent scientist, Mac Gibson. And he had a paper published in Icarus, which is a highbrow scientific publication called Icarus, in 1974. Now, Carl didn't go public with his until 77. So, okay. And he had an article published in the Icarus called Pyramidal Structures on Mars. So this shows that there was a lot of scientific interest in Mars at this early time. You had Carl Sagan, you had this scientist and other scientists, looking at Mars and, saying there could be structures there. But that all changed after the face on Mars, and everybody laughed at anybody that said there was anything on Mars after the face on Mars. But this just shows before that there was a real scientific look into this. This is just Carl Sagan here with his book, Cosmos. And this came out in 1980.
Right.
This is the pyramid, two of the pyramids. This is the original pyramid that Carl Sagan saw in the Mariner 9 image. This is just another three-sided pyramid that's next to it. There's a lot of pyramids. These are mentioned in the book, all of these structures around the area of Elysium. Any questions about that?
No, it's just, once again, those angles, you just don't find it in nature,
No. And the interesting thing is, on Mars, a lot of the pyramids we find are three-sided. Now, a three-sided pyramid is actually four-sided. It's a tetrahedral.
Right.
You got the three sides, and then you got the bottom. And, Richard Hoagland had talked about tetrahedral geometry back in the 80s, how it's all of this interesting information. It's probably some of the golden means all added to this. And so this is like the sacred geometry. And we find a lot of these pyramids on Mars three-sided. So they're all tetrahedral pyramids.
Interesting. Yeah.
Now, right down the road, stone's throw away from Carl Sagan's pyramids, we have these star forts. You see these are five-sided structures. This one here, I call these star shields. And this one is, they have these bastions that come out the sides. It looks like a protective fort. Now this one is very large. This first one, it's about 250 feet across, and the other one is about 150. This is almost identical. See, this one's got a little curve here. This one's got a little curve there, And they're almost identically designed, but this one is twice as big as this little guy. So I call this one the Star Shield Junior.
Right.
And I compare them with this Fort San Teresa, which was built in the late 1700s, and also it has that same, five-sided pointed design. I mean, you can imagine this, covered over with dirt and everything. It would look similar to what we're seeing here.
Yep, I see.
So just showing the comparison of what we're finding on Mars, and this is a defensive fort. These are military. And if you listen to Dr. Brandenburg and all this stuff we talked about earlier with all these forts, it would be advantageous to build forts if you're going to set up a gateway protective fortification on Mars. So you would design things that would have a military purpose.
There you go. All right.
So it's all coming together.
Makes sense.
Now from there, we're going to move over to Nepenthes. All the stuff on Mars is named after Greek mythology and gods and areas that from ancient mythology and stuff. So Nepenthes, this is the area right over here. Again, you see we're finding these around shorelines. Another area that has a bunch of structures. This is another star fort. This is I call the starburst. It has these 5 sides, buildings in the center with this flat area on the top. This is Fort Henry from Tennessee. Has the same, it's almost like the same template. I mean, doesn't this it's like, what the hell is this? It's almost the same thing. This is on Mars. This is on Earth. Has little buildings in the middle, the caches where they keep the ammo and the barracks and all. We got the same thing here. Yep. The same odd flat top, the same flat top here. What can I say?
Interesting.
Like you said, the images speak for themselves.
Right.
As on Earth, as on Mars. Same as above, so below. This is another 5-sided pyramidal formation with different like a step pyramid, different layers. Has a very distinct pentagonal shape. And this is also in the same area as the last star fort. The starburst, I call. This area is very intriguing. This is about 3 miles long, Ryan.
Oh, wow.
From this area. And these are all on platforms. As you can see, these platforms underneath. And there's a platform here. So this from this corner to down here is about 3 miles.
Okay. Wow.
And these are all structures. I'll show you the little outlines. Pretty amazing.
Why would you build something on a platform like that, I wonder?
Well, in the book, we discussed that because that's what the Maya did. They built these huge platforms and then they built structures on top of them. That's just for supportive means. If you look at the over in Israel, you have Solomon's Temple.
Yeah.
And of course, they built the mosque. The Muslims built the mosque on top there. If you stand back from the Weeping Wall there, that's all on a huge platform.
Yeah.
Zechariah Sitchin said it was a launching pad at one time, but it's all built on top of that big platform. A lot of the Roman stuff were all built on huge platforms.
Megalithic platforms, yeah.
Exactly. Wow. Huge things that, they don't know how they even constructed them. So, yeah. So these are all built on these same kind of platforms. Yeah. And they're discussed in the book. And I also do a comparison, which I don't have here, of a Maya city that's similar in design. These structures built on a platform just like this, a comparison.
Okay. All right.
This is the interesting structure here. I call this the crowned kite, which is unlike anything else here. There it is. I mean, look at this thing. Very symmetrical, very geometric. It's got these arms that go out. This one here is a little deteriorated, but it's totally amazing. I mean, that's a structure just sitting there on Mars next to this other highly geometric boulder here.
It kind of looks spaceshipy.
Well, if you send me an email after, I should add that to I found some company that does these templates for spaceship type things, if they ever get the money to build them. And one of them looks almost just like this. It's bizarre. Yeah. A lot of people say this looks like a spaceship, like just sitting there.
Yep.
Maybe that's why it doesn't look like everything else sitting there. You know what I mean? It just doesn't fit. You have all of these very sleek, very conservative looking geometric shapes. And then you have this pretty bizarre thing here.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's it.
Hmm.
Pretty amazing. It's got this beak thing down here, but yeah, it looks like some kind of ship you'd see. The Vulcans driving, attacking the starship.
The Romulan bird
The
of prey.
Romulans.
Yeah.
There you go.
Klingon bird of prey. Yeah.
Now, right down from that, on this other platform, you have this mound here, and then you have this rod with a weird. It's got a meteor hit, and there's little mounds here. This is American Indian. This is the Shore Johnson Mound Group, and it's the same shape. This is on in an American Indian area where there's mounds. It's almost the same idea.
Wow.
So I'm just making the comparison. This is on Mars. This is on Earth. Whoever inherited this architectural means of putting these structures together, these great architects, somehow they influenced cultures on Earth. So it's like they had the same teachings. The group that left, when they were being chased by this other culture that chased them out of here.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Yeah.
And we inherited all this building ability, and that's how come everything on Mars seems to look like things we're finding on Earth. You can't make this stuff up, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is in the same area, just a little bit, I think, to the east. This is the elongated hexagonal mound. You can see it's very geometric. Here I got all the outlines with the measurements. It's just a perfect piece of geometry. Now, this piece on the far right, that's in Turkey. That's on Earth. It has the central mound. This has a central mound. You see all the ruins of the little grid here, like there was all the cities are dead, and this is covered over with sand. Yep. It's just the opposite on Earth. You have all these square adobes that they have over in the Middle East. They're all built over here, and this is all just sand covered up on this artificial mound that they built this city on.
What's fascinating about this particular photo, George, is that the one on the right obviously is from Turkey on Earth. But if you were to tell people, and I'm not, when I say people, that's general. I mean, but when you were if you were to tell people the image on the right was from Mars, people would be like,
well, that's a natural formation.
Yeah, exactly. And
this is all erosion here. This is all erosion. Yeah, they would make up explanations.
But the ones on the left there, I mean, that is so. I mean, I would love to know exactly what those measurements are, but angles. So geometrically perfect. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Carl Sagan, he says that's what you want to look for.
Yeah. It's fascinating. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, the images just speak for themselves.
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
Absolutely.
Now we're moving on again around the shoreline. We're finding another. This is Lydiamontis area of Mars. This is where the famous keyhole structure is.
Oh, wow.
Circle.
Those are all over the Middle East.
Oh, yeah. These are, they're out in Saudi Arabia. These are tombs that they found. A lot of people didn't even know they were there until, of course, the Google started taking all these aerial photographs and finding stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
And we have a science paper published with this, and we had two geologists do it. And I mean, the geometry in this, they were saying that if this is wind erosion, that would destroy this. If you had wind erosion coming, this would not be circular. I mean, that's your geology 101.
Wow.
So it's just highly geometric. And NASA, when they took this, this is one of the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter images, very high resolution. They actually say this is an exclamation mark. And then when NASA releases hundreds of pictures a month, and normally it just has they call it ancillary data, the sun angle and all this stuff. And there's no caption about what it is. This one, they had one of their scientists explain this away. Said this was caused by faulting. Yeah, right. So this is just showing the geometry of this, the high level of sophistication that this structure has.
Okay.
So it's just this is not natural. I call this is one of I have two structures on Mars that I call my double barrel smoking gun.
Yeah.
And this is one of them.
I can see why. Yeah, I can see why.
There's no way your average person that has a little knowledge of geology could say this was natural.
And I think if I'm not mistaken, yeah. So there you go, the keyhole tomb. But I think there are some people who believe that the images in Saudi Arabia, these keyholes all over Saudi Arabia, could very well be connected to Atlantis, which is interesting.
Right. Well, yeah, we don't know a lot about these either. They say these were burial tombs, but you know, there's a lot of conflict going over in these areas, so it's hard really to do some hard research.
Absolutely. Yep.
Now, this is a pretty striking comparison. This is the keyhole on Mars, and this is a Kufan tomb in Japan.
Oh,
now, just as we find in Saudi Arabia, we have all these ancient keyhole-shaped structures. This is in Japan. Japan has a lot of these keyhole structures. The Japanese say, oh, we built these a long time ago. They were for our rulers and stuff. But there's a lot of people that think they were there when the Japanese came into Japan. And there was a race of people that lived on the island that they killed them all, which we don't know much about. They were supposed to be taller than the Japanese. My thoughts, I mean, I'm not I don't know anything about geology or genealogy or anything with the Chinese. The Chinese basically came down, and the Japanese basically somehow obviously related to the Chinese, and they came right off the shore and they occupied this area of Japan and created their own culture and everything. And these structures, I believe, were there when they moved in.
Wow.
But this is a striking comparison.
Yeah, that's got to be a smoking gun too, in a way.
Yeah.
Or smoking gun 1.2, 1.2.
Right.
You know.
Well, when I do the smoking gun, I show them side by side with their terrestrial. So this is pretty amazing. And this had a science paper published also.
Okay. Yeah.
It was here in the fall issue 2016. So this has been a while ago, and nobody pays attention. But you get on the Rogan show, and you're in.
You got to get on there.
I'm trying. This is now we were heading this way. We're going around the corner, coming over here inland. This is what NASA calls Atlantis chaos.
Okay.
And this area here has an amazing city, and this is a huge crater. There's a large crater there, and this is right next to that. Have you seen this?
I'm looking at it right now.
Huh. Well, give you a chance to let your eyes adjust. I've been looking at this stuff for years. So
grid lines, like
yes,
streets.
This is a totally compartmentalized grid.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you just don't find that.
Pretty amazing. What's that?
You just don't find that naturally. Yeah.
No, and these boxes are all about these here, like this one here. They're about 20 by 20 feet. Now, notice you've got this dome structure here.
Yep.
You see the dome, like the Capitol Dome in Washington, D.C.
Yep.
Right over here, we have like a zigzag temple. This here, see this huge temple here?
Yep.
See the sides, like a Maya step pyramid here.
Mm-hmm.
Over here, we have your Aunt Tilly's barn with a back ramp and a little, it's got a chimney here in the side. You see the sides go down?
Yep.
You got rocks down here. This looks like I call it a wood mill. But it looks like something you'd see out on up in New Orleans or something, sitting on the side by a flowing, babbling river. And then, of course, you have all these partial roofs here that are peaked up. All kinds of stuff going on in here. This is a side by of showing the comparison of these adobe constructions that are in Saudi Arabia. Look very much, and these are all compartmentalized, the same thing. The roofs are these are old. All the roofs have been blown off. We're finding this looks almost identical.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
Wow. Yeah.
Give your eyes a chance to adjust. These are the roofs. See the roofs?
Yep. I've been down to Machu Picchu, so yeah, I remember.
Oh, have you? Wow,
yeah.
I'd love to go there. No, haven't been there. Maybe next time you go, give me a call.
Oh man, fascinating! All that stuff in Saxo-Huaman, all that stuff. It's amazing.
But it's a remarkable comparison.
Yep, for sure. And I can just see that. Haven't seen those, and yeah, I can. Yep. Wow.
It's pretty amazing.
Incredible.
Now here's the three structures that you have all these ruins here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, this dome is still there. This is still here, and so is this this wood mill here. Do you know about Dr. Tom Brand? No, Dr. Tom Brand. Dr. Brandenburg, John Brandenburg. He talks about the idea of when NASA discovered evidence of xenon 129 on Mars in the atmosphere, which is a nuclear war signature bomb.
Yeah, but it can only come from nuclear weapon. Yeah,
exactly, that nuclear weapon grade. Exactly. Yep. This looks like ground zero of a nuclear explosion, which it's the same idea when we dropped the bomb on Hiroshima. The main structure in the city with a dome was still standing. Everything else was flattened out. So it's the same idea we're seeing here on Mars. All this was destroyed in this great war that was going on. And these at ground zero were still standing. That's just my theory. That's why they still have some form to them and shape.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Just below the grid city is all these other structures. Here we have a triangular foundation. These are all foundations. The top buildings are gone. This is an arrow-shaped structure. This one here is triangular. And then we have this one over here that is very interesting with all these repeated squares. Here I'm just giving an overlay. This is what we're looking at. This is this little bow tie down here, double wedge or whatever you want to call it. And that's what they look like. This is a fractal. You know what fractals are? The repeated geometry.
Yeah.
I mean, it's remarkable. So just below that, like I said, the city up above, we have these structures. These are a lot larger. These are like a half a mile across or something. And they're pretty big. And they're very geometric. Now, right below this, we have another 5. This is just showing, these are pit houses out in Arizona, built by supposedly American Indians. They're the same shape repeated on top of each other, just like we're seeing here on Mars.
Wow. Huh.
You can't make this stuff up, man. Isn't that remarkable?
That is, yeah.
Yep. There's fractals. These are the next set of 5 structures that are below the one we looked at before. Another pizza-shaped triangle. This is a huge bell down here. This is a chevron. We've got this structure here. This gives you a better idea of what they look like. They're really bad shape. This is, part of the big war. And interesting thing about these, Ryan, is that when you measure these corners here,
right,
this is the same length as this. This is the same length as this. This from here to here is the same as this. And it's the same thing with the other 5. It's repeated measurements. Like the length of this. Oh, I'm sorry. So this here from here to here is the same from here to here. It's a repeated math, the same dimensions. Now, a friend of mine who works with me, he's part of this, the Sidoni Institute, James Miller. He did an analysis of this, which is in the book, and finding all this common dimensions of these 6 or 10 structures. He said that it's kind of like you go to Home Depot and they have a standardized measurement. You get a 4x8. Everything seems we have standardized sizes. So if you're building stuff on other planets, you probably have standardized sizes. And that's why these would be all the same size, because somebody built them. Yeah, so not only do they have geometric shapes, they have a commonality with their dimensions, which is another level of saying maybe these aren't natural.
Yeah. There's a lot of when you get enough circumstantial evidence, it becomes evidence.
It does.
Yeah.
So what's the kitty cat's name?
This is Finn.
Spin?
Finn, Finn, like Huckleberry Finn.
Finn.
Yep.
Oh, I get it. Hi. All right, back to Mars. This is the RG Basin area right here. Again, more water. So we have a coastal line settlement. We were over here with the Atlantis chaos. Now we're over here. This has this is my second double barrel smoking gun. This is a Parrot right along the shoreline. He's got a beak. He's got a dart in his beak here. Here's his head. There's the eye, his body, this foot here. He's on the ground with his wing up. He's been shot down. He got hit in the beak with a blow dart right here. You can see his tongue. This is his neckline, the breast. He's got his leg that comes down here with a knee joint, all his claws, same thing up here. His claw up there is kind of like this, he's in agony. This is my drawing of the parrot with all his feather frets here. This is the parts of the feathers. Now, up into the wing area up here, which you don't see, it's also in the book. We don't get into this part of the formation with this PowerPoint, but that's all ruins of a city, and that's pretty remarkable in itself. Now, this parrot was looked at by 5 veterinarians and 3 or 4 geologists, and they all confirmed that this thing has 22 points of anatomical correctness. Now, if you look at a cloud, people want to say this is pareidolia. You look at clouds, it kind of looks like a face or a car or a fish or a dog or whatever. Usually they're just contours. It's just a contoured thing. There's no secondary, tertiary details, no eyes, mouth, lips, nose, none of that. This has all that. There's just way too much definition. And and natural landforms that kind of look like a face or something, they never have more than 3 or 4 points. After that, that's about all nature will make. It'll give an impression of a face or something like that. This has 22 points of anatomical correctness, which goes way beyond 3 or 4.
All right.
Now, this is a close-up of the parrot's head, and it's got the dart. Now, Ryan, you might be asking, why does this parrot have a dart in its mouth? And why do what do you know about this dart in the mouth thing? Well, let me tell you. Everything we seem to be finding on Mars has a direct correlation to the cultures of Mesoamerica, being in with the Olmec, the Maya, Aztec. Well, the parrot in Maya culture is called the principal bird deity. He was around during the creation mythology, which is recorded in the Maya Popol Vuh, which is basically the Maya's Bible. Now, in the Popol Vuh, it talks about the creation gods got together, and the first thing they made were birds. They made birds and deer. The birds were to take care of the heavens, and the deer were supposed to take care of the meadows and the trees and everything. So that's were the first 2 animals made. And the principal bird deity, he was a bad boy. He was also called Seven Macaw, because he was a macaw parrot. And 7 was the amount of stars in the Big Dipper. So again, the Maya using numbers like 6 Earth place, 7 Macaw. So 7 Macaw, or the principal bird deity, in the Maya creation story, he was devious. He was a bad boy. He stole the sun. Now, at the time, we had the 2 boys, the hero twins. A lot of cultures have the 2. There's always 2 boys.
Yep.
So we had the 2 hero twins, Spock and Captain Kirk. And we got the 2 hero twins. And they track down the principal bird deity. They find him sitting up at the top of the world tree. The world tree was at the navel of the earth. It was this big tree. And he was at the top of the tree. So they took out their blow darts and they shot him in the beak. See the blow dart in his beak? Here's just my line drawing here. So they hit him in the beak. He fell to earth dead, and they retrieved the sun. Story over. So that's what we think. This is just a sculpture. And a lot of things we find on Mars, even the face on Mars, these are all sculptures that deal directly with Mesoamerican iconography, mythology, everything like that. So this is just another example.
Interesting.
So that's who the principal. Excuse me?
Yeah, that's I like how that combines back to Earth. So that's fascinating.
So we think somebody put these structures on Mars to tell us our history. So we're going to find all kinds of, lost libraries and all kinds of things up on Mars. So this is just a close-up of the head. This talks about pareidolia. You know where the word pareidolia comes from? It comes from a journal on mental scientists from 1868. Now, the word pareidolia became into our lexicon of language back in 1994 when a guy he wrote an article about people seeing things. And he was actually, I think, hired by NASA to debunk the face on Mars, that people have a tendency to see faces everywhere. And it's called pareidolia. Your faucet in your bathroom kind of looks like a face, with 2 eyes or whatever, which is common, but it's not what we're seeing on Mars. Now, the word pareidolia comes from this journal from 1868. It talks about a mental disorder. that these crazy people see faces everywhere in the walls, on the ground, in front of, they're being haunted by faces everywhere. That's where the word comes from. And this guy, Stephen, he kind of, made this ammunition against finding anything on Mars. Like the parrot would be called pareidolia. Oh, you're just seeing things. That's not really a parrot. Well, it's got 22 points of anatomical correctness. I think it goes a little far beyond, being chased by scary faces. So that's what this is about. And it's mentioned in the book also. I go into some detail about the history of that word. This is an American Indian Hopewell copper plaque carved in the same shape of what the parrot we're seeing on Mars, a profile with the leg down and its wings up, just similar profile. This is Atlan. It's a Maya city, one of the earliest Maya cities that was built by the Coche Maya. They're the ones that wrote the Popol Vuh. What does that look like?
Yeah, right? Yeah, for sure. It looks.
I'm not saying anything. It's a city built in the shape of a parrot. Pretty amazing. Now, although on Mars, the parrot is sculpted and all the structures are up in the wing. But so this is just everything that's got the, and you find a lot of this in Peru. A lot of the Peruvian cultures, they built structures when viewed. Machu Picchu, when you view that from the sky, it is actually a big caiman. The one side is this big alligator. It's pretty remarkable. The entire city, when viewed from above, looks like a condor.
Yeah.
And there's websites, and there's this guy that wrote a book, can't remember what his name is, but pretty amazing stuff. Some of them look like llamas. There's one that looks like a little bird. And so a lot of the structures do have this pictographic appearance. So this is a human way of building things. It's like it's a family tradition, as Bocephus would say.
Yeah, yeah.
Hank Williams Jr. It's a family tradition. These are the two journals that were published with the parrot. The first article we had published was back in 2011. And then 10 years later, NASA decided to take this huge Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter high-rise picture of the parrot, which just blew us away. And it gave us an opportunity to show, this confirms this isn't low resolution pictures we're looking at. These pictures are in the book that basically prove that this is a sculpted artificial structure. And that was published in 2022.
All right. Very cool.
Now, this whole idea about the Maya, and we talked about Naranjo at the beginning. Usually I do this at the end, but you're the guy running this. This was brought to my attention. I used to go to Pennsylvania. I lived in New Jersey originally, and we're living in Virginia now. But when I lived in New Jersey, I used to go over to the University of Pennsylvania on weekends and participate in Maya workshops, learning how to write Maya hieroglyphs, read them. So I did this like Saturdays every month, a couple times a month. And one of the, they had Maya weekends also once a year, big celebration. It was a 3-day event. You'd pay your fee and go there and listen to all of the new discoveries from the archaeologists. And one year back in 2000, this guy, Simon Martin, he was the up and coming genius of Mesoamerican hieroglyphics and reading the glyphs and stuff. And he wrote this book, Chronicles of Maya Kings and Queens. And it's this book that he talks about Naranjo and all the stuff I have in my book about the Star War, the Maya Star War, the events that happened 896,000 years ago, which is about 1 million years ago. And Dr. Brandenburg, with his Xenon 129, he talks about this event, these wars happening about 1 million years ago. So that's another correlation with the time period. And then there was a second event that happened about 22,000 years ago. And that may give us some more evidence for why we're finding different levels of destruction on these formations we're finding. Even the little rover that's driving around, I'm sure you've seen some of the pictures, looks like an old 57 Chevy radiator sitting over here, and there's an old piece of machinery here, all stuff blown up all over the place. And that may be an explanation for that, because there was some real, battles going on.
Yep. Yeah, there was. It's that stuff is up very interesting. And man, the pareidolia stuff, and it's like, at some point, can we just just be open and talk about like this is what we're seeing, you
Right.
know, and there's a so much effort to debunk this stuff instead of like just take it at face value. This is science, it's observation. You know,
Right.
um, yeah, it's fascinating though.
Well, there's not a lot of free thinking cultures left in this world, and you have places like China where they think the emperor, was the beginning of everything, and nobody's more advanced than them. So we can't be showing people evidence of past civilizations that are greater than them. Same thing with any communist culture, like the Russians. They are the top dog. Nobody else is smarter than them or has done anything before them. So they keep all that from the public. That's why the other countries aren't very happy about us wanting to go to the moon or Mars, because they don't want us coming forward with anything. China is trying to get to Mars first so they can stop us from going there.
Wow.
Which is
Yeah.
a big problem. Which, with all the stuff going, the media doesn't tell people really the things we need to be aware of that's going on. I mean, China is a big threat. Russia is a threat. We're in big trouble.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's all because of what's lying on the surface of the moon and Mars. Is this is a big problem for controlling the masses.
Yeah. Well, shoot, just the moon alone with the helium-3 that's abundant there. That's like that's basically free energy.
Yeah.
Byproduct.
And why?
Is
I mean,
water.
it's only 3 days away. Why aren't we mining it? Why? I mean, we can set up bases. I mean, they don't want to do it. Why? Because you can't look out the window because there's all this stuff all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Too much stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Ryan, this is the on the left. Oops. Let's go back. We were talking about this earlier. This is the Star War glyph. I mean, this is archaeologists, not George Haas. I'm just using their research to show them what they found that they aren't realizing. On the right, that's the 6th Earth place. This is a bar is a number 5. A dot would be 1. So this is 5, 6, 6th Earth place. That's what this means. This is the zip monster. He's got a big snout. It looks like a dragon or an alligator with his nose. Yep. Now, the reason this connection with the zip monster having his nose go back, that's the retrograde orbit of Mars. When you look at Mars in the night sky, Mars will appear to go back and forth in front of you. It's called the retrograde orbit. And they think this is symbolic of that rotating orbit with the snout of the zip monster. That's archaeologists, not me. This here is this is an axe. This means Mars and war. A lot of war. Mars is the war god of the Romans and the Greeks. Not far from reality.
Yeah.
This is just another zip monster. See, his nose goes back.
Yep.
This is a large sculpture. He has 6 dots on his body. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. See those? The orbits, the dots? That's 6. Again, reference to Mars. Just the Maya like to say things over and over again. Like your aunt, when you talk to her, she says the same thing 3 or 4 times. Like, come on, let's get on with it. They like to repeat things, so you get it. This is in the Madrid Codex. These are the zip. See the zip monster heads? They're on human bodies. They're carrying a torch, and then here's some axes. This is the invasion. This is all written down. That's them coming down. These are sky bands. This means this is a celestial. These are coming down from the sky.
Okay.
Now, the zip monster is also related to the rain god. That's why he has the axe. Like Thor, he's got the hammer. He's the thunder god. That's the Maya. Aztec had the thunder god. He was the rain god, the axe. So that's all connected.
Okay.
This is over in Chichen Itza. This is inside the main temple there, the temple of the jaguar, which you can't go into. These murals are just disintegrating. They're in pretty bad shape. Up here we have a Stargate. You see the Stargate?
Yep.
What is that doing up there?
Yep.
And these guys are all in battle here. And a lot of them have beards, Ryan.
Like an Anunnaki.
I know that's not politically correct, but there's some guys with beards down here. I don't know what that's about. I don't know how they got in Mexico, but causing trouble. This is one of the stargates with a guy inside. He's got a torch. That's a weapon. Notice the 4 points here. They're zip monsters. Okay? Again, Mars. This is like Stargate. Here he's yelling. That's a sound glyph, and he's got a torch, and he's got 4 zip monsters.
Interesting.
That's the archaeologists call him a Captain Sun. So back here, there's a Captain Sun up here, but this is pretty well deteriorated, and he's sitting inside this on a jaguar. And then there's a zip monster here. You see this, and his nose goes up. You can't see it. He's got a very decorative nose that goes up. So the zip monster's everywhere. This is just a comparison of a Sumerian. You've seen these star discs.
Yep.
With the Babylonians and the Sumerians. So here we have one of the gods inside. He has a bow. This is part of a bow and arrow. And I'm just showing that very similar. I mean, this whole relationship between, Dr. I don't think he was a doctor. Zachariah Sitchin talked about the parallels between the Maya and the Sumerians. So again, this is just showing that same idea. This is Dr. Brandenburg talking about the nuclear event that happened in Cydonia and over. This is the old NASA used to call this Utopia. This is where the Viking was supposed to land, or this is where it did land. It's supposed to land in Cydonia. Interesting, the 2 places NASA picked to land were part where the explosions were. That's just a coincidence, isn't it?
Yeah.
So they changed the name from Utopia to Galaxia's Chaos. And they had Atlantis Chaos over here. You saw the destruction there. There's all kinds of crap over here, but I don't even have that in the book. That's one of the next books. But the 2 places NASA was going to land was in Cydonia, or they said this was too dangerous. That's where the face is. So they landed over here, and now it's not called Utopia anymore. They changed the name. And these are the 2 places that they found in the Viking mission that had the highest levels of the Xenon 129.
Wow.
Huh?
Yeah.
Boy, that's some coincidence that those are the 2 places they picked to land.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, obviously.
When did they know it? Yeah. What do you know, and when did you know it?
Yep.
So supposedly they knew about the Xenon 129 from the Mariner 9, had a atmospheric sniffer on it. And then it was verified in the Viking. And then every other mission that they have, the orbiters, they've all confirmed that this is going on there. And this only came to light because of Dr. Brandenburg and his research. And it's available through NASA papers and stuff, but it's not public. I mean, when did Walter Cronkite come out and say, we've discovered, Xenon 129 on, it's a nuclear? Nobody mentioned that. No.
Yeah. And that's kind of the point, right, George? Because
shot Kennedy, and then they got rid of Nixon. Nixon, they had to end the space program with Nixon, so they had the Watergate. They made that a whole thing and got rid of him, and we've never gone to the moon since.
Wow, that's interesting too. But it is fascinating, right? It's fascinating that you talk about smoking guns. The Xenon is, that's the biggest smoking gun, literally.
Yeah.
So that just doesn't happen. Like, there has to be some sort of intelligent something behind it in order for that remnant to be there, period. Right.
Exactly. And if you look at these ancient stories with the Maya and the Sumerians, and even in India, they have stories about, the gods fighting in this. So it's not just in one place we have these stories, and sometimes stories are real. They talk about real events. They might be changed a bit for their local gods, but it's basically the same story. Like the Maya story is very similar to the Anunnaki story, but it's located to that portion of the world, and they have their own mythologies and their own histories and stories, and it's just slightly different. It's indigenous, as you say. So
it's fascinating. So
this goes along again with the all of the evidence. Now, this whole idea that if this happened, a million years ago, the Maya culture, that's more recent.
Right.
But whoever helped develop them put these stories in their head. And the Maya do what they call, the Aztec do what they call flower wars. Now, flower wars are basically staged reenactments of ancient wars that the gods participated in, but the Maya or the Aztec recreate them. Now they found these stories about these flower wars when the Spanish came over here and started taking over Mexico. And what they would do was each tribe or different sectors of the Aztec Empire there, they had their own rulers, and they fought. They fought all the time, just like American Indians fought with the Blackfoot, and they didn't like the Sioux, and all these different groups. But at certain times of the year, when Venus and Mars were aligned, they would do these what they called flower wars, and they would be reenactments, and they'd dress up in different costumes, imitating this ancient war that happened. And they wouldn't kill the enemy; they'd capture them.
All right.
So this was like just what we would call reenactments, just like we do reenactments of the Civil War. Where guys dress up, and we do these Civil War reenactments. And just like medieval times, where people, they dress up and they're jousting, and you're eating chicken in an old tin cup of wine or beer with your chicken leg, and it's a lot of fun. And but this is the same thing I think the Maya were doing with their history when they were writing these things down. And when kings took over a new city, they would do these reenact. They would actually dress up like the Zip monster, or they dress up like the principal bird deity, or they dress up like different ancient characters out of the Popol Vuh, just to do these ceremonies. So it's not like the Maya were on Mars doing this. Whoever gave them all this tradition and this history, they're the ones that were there. The Maya were just, part of that. They had that history taught to them, I think. Right. I think that's how it goes. So when, I don't want to confront archaeologists and say, oh, what are you, crazy saying the Maya were on Mars? No, somebody else was there, but they're just, somebody gave them this information. They were bestowed this sacred knowledge that they recorded in their Popol Vuh. We even do reenactments of Star Wars. I mean, some of the cities, they have these crazy, what do they have? The Fourth be with you, and all these people go crazy. So all this whole idea of reenactment battles is very common. Just go to Washington, D.C. We have monuments to battles everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Now, this is maybe Smoking Gun 3. I always forget about this one. This is in the Temple of the Jaguar that we saw earlier.
Yep.
This mural today is probably non-existent. This was done by an artist, Breton. She must have been in her late 20s, early 30s. She was allowed to go to Chichen Itza in the early 1900s, I think like 1904, 1910, or whenever she was down there. And she was a great artist, and she did all these watercolor paintings of the murals. And this mural is one of your star captains. He's fighting. See, he's in his star ship.
Yep.
And he's got his weapon. This is a Zip monster serpent here. See him? And this other guy's riding on a Zip monster. So this is up on the top. This is a battle scene. There's all kind of fighting going down here. So all of this is recorded right there in Chichen Itza. And thank God she was able to do these paintings, because today they're just crumbling. They're falling apart. They have to have a special environmental machinery in there to keep the humidity down, but they're just crumbling. And this is a direct painting of one of the scenes that she took, and it's remarkable. Yeah. So that's one of the pictures at the end of the book, tying this all together, that there was some type of war between different factions. And this guy's obviously, he's a Caucasian guy, and then you got a darker skinned guy here. So a lot of weird things going on. Even in the Olmec, you find the Olmec sculptures. Some of them look like they're black guys. They look very Negroid. You have Caucasian looking guys. You have Oriental looking people. They're all down there in the Olmec sculptures. It's bizarre.
And those were all buried. Those were all like, and I think
the heads were hidden. They were all buried. The big heads. Yeah.
Crazy.
Ceremonial buried, which the Maya, a lot of them did that. When they killed something, they would bury it. Like when they had temples that they didn't use anymore, they bury them, and sometimes build another one right on top of it. And archaeologists found that out when they started excavating, and they were looking at these temples that they found. This is one of the first ones they found. They noticed this was broken. They're trying to repair it, and it's like, holy crap, there's another pyramid under here.
Yeah.
In perfect shape.
Yeah.
So it's a bizarre story. And I hope that I've intrigued you enough to think that at least one of these things I showed you was artificial.
Yeah, don't get me started, man. We could probably talk about this for 6 or 7 hours easy because it's all connected. It really
Yeah.
is. I believe it's all connected. Everything in your research, everything that you just demonstrated, um, is fascinating and it's awesome. But I still believe with all my heart, uh, you've got to take into account this xenon, whatever it is, that is,
Xenon 129.
yeah, 129. Man, it's the only way you get that is from the explosion of weapons grade plutonium or whatever it is in a nuclear weapon.
Right.
That's a
Well,
man-made thing.
the one thing is, it does exist in nature, but very low. I mean, you'd have to probably be on the ground to detect it. They're getting this in the atmosphere, and there's tons of it. You wouldn't have that naturally.
Yeah.
That's the clincher. And a lot of the people the scientists that try to debunk Dr. Brandenburg, that's what they want to focus on. Oh, you can find it in nature, but not at that level. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah. So, and just that one simple point alone opens the door for
Sure.
everything else that you just demonstrated.
Yeah, each of the elements all build, and you find A, B, C, and once you get past three or four different points, I mean, you got to say, there's something going on here.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
they don't want to ever get that far.
well,
And
we
I
did.
have like five more books like this to do.
Is
There's so
that
much
it?
evidence.
Are you going to have anything? Are you going to do anything on the moon?
Um, we don't have a lot of great pictures. We have pictures of things that look weird,
Yeah.
but there's no they're not interested.
Hmm.
NASA.
Interesting. Wow.
We really don't have a lot of. There's anomalies up there. I mean, I have a few pictures. I mean, I could fill maybe one book, but there's more evidence on Mars, because I think the moon, whatever they blew up there, was pretty well destroyed.
Yeah.
And but there's a lot more evidence on Mars, and there are things on the moon that are odd. A lot of geometric looking blocks and things, but nothing to get people really excited.
Yeah.
I don't think. I mean, there is that ziggurat. Have you seen the ziggurat image of the thing that looks like a little ziggurat? Now, that was found by a friend of mine, God, back in 1996, way
Wow.
back. He's since passed away. And I think it was Mike Barra that brought that to a lot of people's attention. Have you had him on your show?
No, I
Mike
haven't.
Barra?
I haven't.
Oh, he's an interesting guy. He's got a bunch of books about Mars and stuff, JF Kennedy assassination and stuff. That's why they get rid of John F. K, because of the moon.
Really? You think so?
Well, John F. Kennedy, he started the space program right after Eisenhower.
Yeah.
And do you know where he was the day before he was assassinated?
No.
Houston, we got a problem. He was in
Okay.
Texas.
Okay.
He was at NASA.
Wow.
And he did a speech there saying, well, he was Irish.
Yeah. Irish Catholic. Yeah.
And the old Irish saying, when you're a kid, you're climbing over your neighbor's fence. If you climb up, your hat, everybody wore hats. Their hats fell off. So you throw your hat over the fence, which means you're making a commitment to get out of your neighbor's yard. So he said our hat's already over the fence when he was talking about going to the moon. He said our hat's already over the fence. So we're committed. And we got there by the end of the decade. But when the Russians were way ahead of us, they had the dog up in space. They had a woman go around the moon. They had all kinds of way before spacewalk. They were way ahead of us.
Way ahead.
They were way ahead of us, but they never landed. But they had a low altitude vehicle that went around and took pictures, and the pictures were sent to the White House. But we don't know what they look like. But they did send the pictures, and that's what started the whole thing with the Russians and Kennedy. And Kennedy refused to stop going to the moon. See, the Russians, being communists, they can't have somebody have evidence of an ancient culture on the moon when they're the king of the hill. Nobody's better than the Russians. They're superior.
Yeah.
So they don't want the public. The public can't have anything because it'll ruin all of their support, all of their, the grip they have on the public.
It is interesting. That time period is so interesting too, George, because Russia was way ahead of the American space program. Then all of a sudden, it's like they stopped focusing on the moon and started focusing on Venus.
Right. They've done a lot more research on Venus.
Yeah.
Because Venus is one of the ones that got burnt up when it got too close to the, stuff there probably. Yeah. But nobody even talks about Venus. But so they told Kennedy, stay away from the moon, don't go. And he said he was going to go, and they killed him. And then they had to kill Marilyn Monroe because they were having an affair. She liked to drink a little bit. Loose lips sink ships. So that was the end of Marilyn Monroe. And everything was fine until Nixon. We got there, we landed, and we went there 4 or 5 times, 1972 or whatever, and Watergate, and that was the end of the moon program. Gone.
Yeah. And somehow
in limbo ever since.
And mysteriously, we lost all the navigational data to be able to get to the moon, and we can't figure it out now. They were using slide rules.
I mean, everybody carries the computer around in their phone. We can't get there. I don't know. It's very difficult.
It's hey, and the other fascinating thing about the moon that I love, George, is that there are ancient cultures that talk about a time when the moon was not there.
I've heard about that. Yeah, that's very strange.
Yeah.
Well, because it's artificial.
Well,
they did the ringing experiment with the moon.
Yeah.
It rang and rang.
And that was on purpose.
Yeah, because they wanted to verify it.
Yeah, they the first time they dropped the whatever the lunar module that allowed them to take off, they just got rid of it, dropped it back, and it rang like a bell. The next time they did it on purpose, with a bigger whatever payload on it, I guess, or whatever. So
it's a hollow sphere, and it's perfect, to block the sun, to do all of the
perfect size, right?
Perfect size, yeah. I mean, I guess God did that, but
it's
somebody else.
Yeah, and it's the biggest moon. It's too close. It's way not dense enough for its size. There's some weird things going on with the moon. That's all I'm saying. And yet they say too that Earth couldn't be Earth without the moon.
Well, probably, yeah. Whoever wanted to, make this a great place, did it. Great architects.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. Tell folks where they can get all your books. Tell folks where they can, keep up with your research. And here, after you get back from being on Coast to Coast, where you'll have all this stuff uploaded and talking about it.
Yeah. The book's put out by Barron Company, and you can get it on Amazon or go right to the Barron Company, but most people buy things on Amazon. Also, the Kindle's nice because the Kindle, you have all the high resolution pictures in there. You can blow them up, look closely at that parrot's beak to see if there is a tongue in there. Of course, the paper book, you can't have that kind of resolution. So I'm always pushing or buy both, actually. Get the Kindle and the book. And you can contact us at the premier and founder of the Cydonia Institute. We have a website. Just type in Cydonia Institute or type in George Haas. I mean, I'm all over the internet. And visit us over there. All of our science papers you can read. They're all on the Cydonia Institute, the science paper page. The new paper's not up yet because it just came out today. I just found that out. So you're premiering it right on this show.
That's awesome. What's the name of the paper?
Well, they changed the title. It's called Geology or Archaeology, Square-Shaped Structure in Arabia area of Mars or something like that. So
okay. Awesome, man. I mean,
but it'll be up when I get back from Colorado. I'll get all that put together. And so the book's available there, and they can contact us at the Cydonia. I know it's crazy. I didn't think about this when I got my email. It's the Cydonia Institute at hotmail.com. Got to spell out the whole one word, the Cydonia Institute. Or if you go to the Cydonia Institute website, you can just click on there. It's got a hot link.
Sounds good, man. You got it covered. I appreciate you, man.
It's great being on here. You're a great guy to talk to.
Well, listen, if you have anything else you ever want to come back on, another book, whatever it is, get a hold of me, and I appreciate it. I'm fascinated by this stuff, and congratulations on the paper. Some of the names you were dropping there are fascinating individuals. Robert Schoch is, a lot of stuff that he's done has been amazing.
Well, how he got on the paper was, it was amazing. My friend Cliff Dunning, he's got the Earth Ancients podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of Earth Ancients?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Cliff has had Robert on a few times, and we lost our geologist about 4 or 5 years ago. That was part of the Cydonia Institute. We have William Saunders, and then we had Michael Dale. Michael passed away, unfortunately. And so we wanted to do this paper on the square formation, and I contacted Cliff. I said, hey, Cliff, do you know any geologists? Because, we got to have two to do a paper.
Yeah.
So he goes, yeah, I can send you. He didn't even mention it was Robert Schock. So he says, yeah, I got one. So he sends me his email, and I'm like, oh, Robert Schock. So I sent him an email saying that we're working on this paper, and would he like to look at it? He says, yeah, sure, send it along. It was very easy. Yeah, sure, send it along.
Yeah.
And I sent it to him, and then he sends it back like a week later. He's already added his geological analysis, and he put his name on the paper.
Can't beat that. You can't beat that.
No, we were like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And I haven't even spoken to him, just through emails. So, and we're both on Barron Company. We're both the same publisher. All his books are on Barron Company. So we're like practically brothers.
Yeah. There you go.
He's
That's awesome.
He's been on the Rogan podcast, Robert. So maybe we'll get on there. Maybe we'll double team him.
You're gonna get on. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
I hope so. Because I need to sell books. My wife keeps saying, "Show me the money, show me the money."
Well,
it's tough.
That's what they do. That's what they do.
That's what they do.
And I'm just a gateway drug for the Rogan podcast too. So just so you know, you go through me, and then next thing, just.
Oh, that's why I'm on here, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so.
Praise the gods.
Hey man, it's been awesome. I appreciate you. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you again, man. Anytime you need.
All right, if you're looking for some time to fill, give me a call, or when I get something else going on, I'll contact you. It's been a pleasure being on. Thanks.
Rock and roll. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only George Haas. Thank you so much. That was George Haas, everyone. What a wild ride through Martian mystery and suppressed science. Whether you agree with every claim or not, one thing is certain. There's more to Mars than we've been told. Ancient structures, unexplained formations, and layers of silence. So what do you think? Are we seeing the remnant of an ancient civilization on Mars? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And hey, if you want to go deeper, be sure to grab George Haas's book. You can find it at innertraditions.com. It's packed with images, analysis, and years of delicate research. A must-have if this episode fired you up. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button, friends, and join the movement. Want to go further? Become a channel member on YouTube. Unlock custom emojis, get early access to new episodes, and support the mission. And for everything The Ryan Files, head over to theryanfiles.com. But if you want to go deeper, if you want the discussions after the discussions, check out patreon.com/theryanfiles and become an agent of The Ryan Files. You'll get exclusive bonus episodes, aftermath content, and help us keep uncovering the truths others won't touch. You've helped us grow this far, and only with your help can we make it to the next level. Seriously, from the heart, thank you. Be bold, my friends, stay curious, and I'll see you right here next time on The Ryan Files.
Are you not curious?
Preparing to transfer the Ryan files. Now.
I present to you, with great intrigue and wonder, the Ryan Files.